Damn, you guys are quick today. Quick today. What's going on? You guys are quick. Hold on, I got something that's not muted. It's gotta get muted. Hold on, I got something that's not muted. It's gotta get muted. Unmuted. There you go. There you go. I don't know. Good thing y'all couldn't hear that browser because that was a whole lot of echoing. All right, let's close this out. Boom, boom, boom. Off center. Lint on my shoulder. What's going on here? What's going on here? I think this camera's over here like you were center, but you weren't paying attention, so now I'm gonna move. Lights aren't on. What's going on here? Damn. There. Boom. You know, if the lights aren't on, you're not even streaming. You know what I'm saying? Damn, I lost some of the. Here we go. Smoke one. Damn, I feel like, look at that. 8:56 live stream elements. Smoke one came in with the yo. Like, I was ready to go. Sig Fang, Architect of Sin, Midnight Monarchy. What's going on, everybody? Rough Rider Beta. Good to see y'all in here. Before we begin, want to make sure the new fit, New California Republic. I know y'all know what that's about. Had to cop it. I got right now. Look, there's a couple things. There's a couple things about me that you guys already know. But I watch The Office way too much. I know way too much about The Office, I should say. And I'm a Bethesda simp, and I don't really know what to do about it. You know, I've tried to get help. I've tried to, you know, talk to people about it, and you know, when I think it's out, they pull me right back in. Oh, the YouTube goal needs to be updated. That's for sure. Actually, I got some news for y'all. And it's been a crazy week. And that's why I'm kind of surprised at myself. I'm not, though, because I know myself. That we got some good news. We got some milestones that we hit, and then I got some news about sponsorships that I'm gonna bring up more than once. You know, because you know we're selling out over here. We're selling out now. I'm playing. I don't really consider this a sellout because, you know, you gotta make money. That's what we're all here to do. We want better in life, right? We want better in life, but this is the world we live in. Hold on, all widgets, because we gotta make sure we update this bad boy. Sub goal, refresh. No, homie, what? No, that's a wrong kind of refresh. That's not what we want. 72,000. Shit. Follow YouTube. Where is this? Subscriber goal. There we go. Start goal. It's not even on. What in the world? See, that's unfortunate because, like, we had made goals, and so somehow the thing got actually, you know what? I think it might be at me. See if I can put it. I think it's all
F-35s, fighter jets.
You can't see it. You can't see it.
Even if it's right next to it, it can't see.
087 coming out here with the tier 1 sub. Subscribed for 25 months. Now check this out. 25 months on a 20-month streak. And it's not even automatic, because she likes to make sure the subs happen while I'm live. Because she's like me. Like if you don't see it, then it doesn't count. You know, like, nah, I'm not gonna not sub when that doesn't even count. Man, this thing is pissing me off. How am I gonna click this? Thank you. I appreciate that. That's how you know what a ride or die is right there. There it is. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's updating. 465 reset goal. I think I have to end the goal and restart. You son of a biznatch. YouTube sub goal. We're trying to get to 1,000. And I guess this is the announcement right here. We're trying to get 1,000. And your boy is at 502. Why isn't that thing coming on? We're over here. We're over here making sausage, as they say. And I'm live. 502. Yeah, we broke 500 last week. And so the goal for the year is, see, December 23rd, blah blah blah, start goal, yada yada yada. And okay, now we're good. Okay, now I can stream. I'm ready to stream. How long wait? 10 minutes? Good. Lints off the shirt. Sub goals updated. Yeah, now we're good to go Left Vegas, there it is. He got it. Midnight Monarchy, New Vegas edition. Good. Got a new puppy. Yep. You ready to fall asleep? I know. It sucks too because last night I wanted to I wanted to do well by you and take the dog out, but that dog is not listening to me. Only listens to Molly and Maneater right now. Lasagna has a new pet. Yeah. Lasagna don't give two shits about that damn dog. Yeah, I wish. So Lasagna has to be acclimated. But let me get the first one out the way. Let me get the first announcement out the way. Well, I mean, the first one was we broke 500. So we're halfway there. I think once this started, this channel started to switch over to Beta Boy TV. I think it started at like low 300s, high 200s. And since Beta Boy TV to today, we've gained about 200 subs. And so on the journey to 1,000 subs, to get monetized, have memberships and all that stuff, emotes, then we're halfway there. So I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. We're not at month 6, right? And we're already halfway. So hopefully we can get 500 between now and December. Second news is I just got accepted into as an affiliate for Ground News. So I know y'all see me pull up news and all that a lot, and the struggle for me is, sometimes annoyingly, I like to be. It's not even really on purpose. It's like it just doesn't make sense, right? It's literally the reason I'm not even a Christian anymore. My belief systems have to align, right? And so I struggle as somebody who understands capitalism is garbage, as somebody who understands this is the way in my moral framework, right? Then I want to be consistent in that. So one of the things I've always thought about is as I grow, and I know this is how I want to pay bills, right? That's the goal. What happens when there's opportunities to make money with other businesses, right? And so I think about that a lot. Like we joke around, like, if if Jake Paul's Prime wanted to, here's $2 million or something like that. Now I don't know if I don't know if your boy can walk away from $2 million. Okay. But I will say this much. It reminds me of the arguments with people getting offered giant contracts to head over to Kick. If you're getting giant contracts, am I? Do I just need to be closer to the mic? How's it right now? Test. Oh, I know what I need to do here. I can pull this bad boy up. How's that? Does that change anything? Is that better, or do I need to go up more? How about now? Sound test. Getting a little better. Getting there. Getting there. All right. Let me know. Let me know if it's too low to and we'll figure it out. All right. So what was I saying? So the struggle, right? You know, I'm not gonna ever be. I'm never gonna take a sponsorship from Prime Jake Paul's sports drinks. I'm not gonna take a sponsorship from corporations who who steal labor and shit like that. When people talk about, we joke around and talk about people who get offered tons of money, and it's like, bitch, you gonna take that money. But I think about that. Like, sometimes I think yes, right? But also think about, like, if I'm the kind of person, if this channel ever becomes the kind of place where, even as, even I know we're just kidding, but let's pretend I'm somebody that Kick offers $5 million to. Let's pretend I'm somebody that Jake Paul's Prime drink offers, $2 million to. Well, chances are, if I'm that guy, I'm already a millionaire, right? Like, they're not offering it to me now with 500 YouTube subs. You know what I mean? They're offering it to me because I'm a big deal, because I'm worth that much. And I still think, I would like to think that if I'm worth that much, if, I've built the community to, and obviously this part's not my goal. I'm not trying to be like a mega anything. I just want to be able to pay some bills. That's it. But I'm just saying, if I got to that point, then I should still be judged. Yes, because when we look at like people like XQC who went over to Kick, and you're talking about accepting a contract from a place like Kick, right? You're talking about a millionaire who wanted more millions, and I think you absolutely can judge that. You know what I mean? Now, if somebody offered me millions now, again, I would like to think I had the what's the word? The principles I to be able to go, if it was from a shit company, to be able to say no. But offering me millions is way fucking different than offering a millionaire millions. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different. And I think the judgment level kind of increases at that point. Like, I'm like, okay, wait, time out. Is this somebody who could, this is world changing, or is this somebody who just wants a couple more dollars in their pocket? You know what I'm saying? Like, I might not judge somebody living on the street, who takes $1,000 a month paycheck or something to work for something. You know what I mean? Like somebody who might lose their house, and Starbucks says, "Hey, come work for us, and you won't lose your house." Well, we don't want to support Starbucks, but this dude is also about to lose his house. It's shit like that. Bro, to get to the damn point, ground news is like, when I thought about that, I was like, this is it. This is good. This is good. Because when you look at ground news, and we'll go over a little bit more later, but when you look at ground news, the way that they show bias, the way that they put out that it's more than a news aggregator, that it shows you, who owns what. Like, it just has all these different things to it. I'm like, this is dope. When you sit there and you get an email about the blind spot, like, here's what's the people on the right are not reporting. Here's what people on the left are not reporting. And I'm like, that's dope. So I shot my shot. I went ahead and emailed their affiliate program, sent them my stats, and honestly, I'm like, I'll probably need to be a little bit bigger before they pick me up. But they wrote back and said, you've been accepted, and so there you go. Vice, that would be legit. See, I would take Vice. I would take good. How dope would it be to get like even like Democracy Now! Or Al Jazeera, or but listen, all that to say that one way that you could support me and be able to get that good shit is to check out check.groundnews.news. I'm sorry, check.ground.news/leftface. and they have like premier like subscription options that open up a lot of the like bias sections and the blind spot sections and all these other things that we'll go into probably a little bit later. But you get 15% off those subs, and they throw me a little kickback. So that's another way that you can support by checking out check.ground.news/leftface for 15% off. All right. So what do we got going on today? I don't know why that came up. Who would you take a sponsorship from? Well, there's one right there. I would take Ground News. I would take Vice. Vice would be dope. Pretty much anyone whose purpose I think aligns with mine. And contrary to popular belief, it's socially not making money is not a socialist ideal. People make money even when they're fans of socialism. But what I do want is to not have to sell my soul. You know what I'm saying? Legit, if Starbucks offered me a solid sponsorship, I would absolutely say no. And if it was a lot of money, I just wouldn't tell Maneater. I think that would be too upsetting to hear. Maneater knows I'm not bullshitting either. Like, I think if a place like Starbucks or some like Israeli, his based company wanted to like send me something, I'd be like, can't do it. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. All right, so we're going to start off with the headlines with Democracy Now. And shout out to Democracy Now, by the way, for never striking me. That hurt my feelings, Al Jazeera. That really did. I thought we were cool. But shout out to Democracy Now for never striking me. Let's see here. What do I want to do first? So Jan 6, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie had a segment out. CIA officer exposes FBI involvement in Jan 6. We'll check that out. And then we're going to go to video showing California deputies fatally shooting abducted teen as she surrenders. This was last week, but didn't get around to watching it, and I definitely want to talk about that because fuck the police. And a debate that's actually going on right now is Cenk Uyger, Dave Smith versus Dennis Prager and Batya Ungar Sargon are doing a debate. I don't know if it's still going or not because we're going to watch it. Oh, it says streamed live, so I think it's off now. But it's we're going to watch it from the beginning anyway, so it won't be live their time. And then there's a strike going on where tech workers are protesting Google's contract with Israel, a $1.2 billion contract, and then some got arrested. So we'll check that out. If there's time at the end, I do want to watch a little Pop the Balloon. I know that Maneater wants to see that, but I know she's also going to be asleep by the time that happens. So I apologize, love. I apologize. It's probably not in the cards for you tonight. Yes, Amy Goodman time. It is Amy Goodman time. And let me
democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United Nations has accused Israel of continuing to unlawfully restrict aid into Gaza, despite acknowledgments by the United States that parts of Gaza are already experiencing famine. Ravina Shamdasani of the UN Human Rights Office spoke in Geneva Tuesday.
Israel continues to impose unlawful restrictions on the entry and distribution of humanitarian assistance, carry out widespread destruction of civilian infrastructure as well.
This comes as the official death toll in Gaza nears 34,000, including over 14,000 children and 10,000 women. A new report by UN Women finds Israel's assault on Gaza has left more than 19,000 children orphaned. Earlier today, Israel struck a playground and busy market in the Maghazi refugee camp. Tension remains high in the Middle East as world leaders urge Israel to show restraint following Iran's recent drone and missile attack. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron has urged Israel to do, quote, as little as possible to escalate tensions with Iran. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of provoking Iran by first bombing the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, 2 weeks ago.
Netanyahu is endangering the lives of both his own citizens and all the peoples in the region to extend his political life. This is an indisputable fact. The one responsible for the tension that made our hearts skip a beat on the night of April 13 is Netanyahu and his government, which is seeing red.
The United Nations Human Rights Office is calling on Israel to stop supporting violent Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank. In recent days, settlers have killed at least 3 Palestinians and attacked a number of villages, burning dozens of homes to the ground. Human Rights Watch has accused Israeli military forces of either taking part in the attacks or failing.
No. It's okay, though, because the United States has done... what do we do? We put sanctions on some of the settlers. I mean, there's settlers there that can't even, get American credit cards. So worry not. We're good. We're good, everybody.
To protect Palestinians from the settlers. Meanwhile, The Guardian's revealed Israel's been speeding up plans over the past 6 months to build thousands of housing units in new illegal settlements in East Jerusalem. At least 9 workers at Google were arrested Tuesday after staging sit-ins at the company's offices here in New York City and in Sunnyvale, California, in the CEO's office, to protest Project Nimbus, a $1.2 billion contract to provide cloud computing services to the Israeli government and military. Iman Hassim is a Google software engineer in Sunnyvale.
We demand that Google drop Project Nimbus, the $1.2 billion contract between them and Israel. We demand that Google protect their Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian worker voices from harassment, retaliation, suppression. And we demand that Google recognize Project Nimbus as a workplace safety and health concern.
We'll have more on Google later in the show with...
That's the, so that interview with them is the one we're going to watch after this.
2 of those Google workers arrested. In other protest news, students at Columbia University and Barnard College have set up dozens of tents on campus to create what they're calling a Gaza solidarity encampment. This is Isra Hirsi, a student at Barnard, who's the daughter of Congressmember Ilhan Omar.
Hello, I am a organizer with CU Apartheid Divest. Today we have over 100+ people who have come together to form the Gaza Solidarity Encampment. Today we are calling for divestment, we are calling for amnesty for suspended students, as well as transparency from Columbia University on what they invested.
The president of Columbia University is testifying before Congress today. The first 7 jurors have been selected in Donald Trump's hush money criminal trial. Jury selections expected to continue on Thursday.
That's a sentence I always wanted to hear about someone who very likely could be the president of the United States again. Jurors have been... God damn it.
Welcome.
Jurors have been selected. That's super, super great.
Trial. Jury selections expected to continue on Thursday. Opening arguments could begin as soon as Monday. Judge Juan Merchan has admonished the former president for intimidating jurors after Trump was heard muttering something under his breath during jury selection. On Tuesday, Trump reportedly fell asleep during the proceedings for a second day in a row. Trump's charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to hide a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. The U.S.
I find like courtroom art like that so weird. Just allow photographers at least, like Like, okay, listen, I don't want any cameras in here. None. No video, no cameras, nothing. How about somebody who quickly draws like really, really shitty versions of what's going on? Okay. We can have a shitty artist do a rush job there, but no cameras.
Supreme Court's weighing whether the Justice Department has improperly used a federal obstruction law to charge more than 350 people involved in the January 6th insurrection. Several justices appeared skeptical of the DOJ's reasoning during oral arguments Tuesday. This is Justice Clarence Thomas.
There have been many violent protests that have interfered with proceedings. Has the government applied this provision to other protests in the past, and has this been the government's position throughout the lifespan of the statute?
Justice Thomas has refused to recuse himself from cases related to the January 6th insurrection, even though his wife, Ginny Thomas, attended Trump's Stop the Steal rally on the Eclipse just before Trump supporters attacked the Capitol. The Supreme Court's decision could also impact the prosecution of Donald Trump, who faces 4 counts under the law, which was passed after the Enron scandal. The possible extradition of imprisoned WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange to the United States has edged a step closer. On Tuesday, the Biden administration provided assurances to the British High Court that Assange would not face the death penalty and that his First Amendment rights would be protected if he were to be extradited from Britain, where he's been locked up for years. Assange's wife, Stella, slammed the U.S. response, saying, quote, "The diplomatic note does nothing to relieve our family's extreme distress about his future, his grim expectation of spending the rest of his life in isolation in U.S. prison for publishing award-winning journalism," she said. In news from India, security forces have killed 29 Maoist rebels in the central state of Chhattisgarh, just days before India's
Yeah, I imagine that's probably not the way. But you know what? Respect. That's all you can do at that point. That's all you can do. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, this is not going anywhere, so I got a question for you.
national elections begin. It was one of the deadliest attacks on the Naxalite movement in years. In news from Capitol Hill, Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie of Kentucky has joined Congressmember Marjorie Taylor Greene's bid to oust Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson. Massie made the announcement a day after Johnson.
What a fucking mess. What an absolute mess the Republican Party is. The fact that they cannot get their shit straight is just hilarious.
Finally sent articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the Senate. In voting news, Maine's become the latest state to join the National Popular Vote Compact, which could transform the way presidents are elected in the United States. 16 states and Washington, D.C. have now pledged to award their combined 209 electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the nationwide popular vote. The compact will only go into effect once supporters of the compact control at least 270 votes. Support for the National Popular Vote Compact has grown in recent years after both George W. Bush and Donald Trump were elected president despite losing the popular vote. In California, a former U.S. Marine has been sentenced to 9 years in prison for firebombing a Planned Parenthood clinic in Costa Mesa in 2022. Chance Brannon pleaded guilty in November. He admitted he'd also planned to attack a second Planned Parenthood clinic and an LGBTQ pride celebration at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. 2 other people involved have also pleaded guilty and will be sentenced in May. In a major win for LGBTQ rights advocates, a federal appeals court has blocked West Virginia's measure banning transgender children and youth from participating in public school and college sports. The ruling stemmed from a case involving 13-year-old Becky Pepper Jackson, a trans athlete who's been challenging West Virginia's ban since 2021. Meanwhile, The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing Idaho to enforce its ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth, while lawsuits over the measure are heard in lower courts. Under the law, physicians in Idaho face up to 10 years in prison for providing...
I missed that. Hold on.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the Senate. In voting news, Maine's become the latest state to join the National Popular Vote Compact, which could transform the way presidents are elected in the United States. 16 states and Washington, D.C. have now pledged to award their combined 209 electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the nationwide popular vote. The compact will only go into effect once supporters of the compact control at least 270 votes. Support for the National Popular Vote Compact has grown in recent years after both George W. Bush and Donald Trump were elected president despite losing the popular vote.
Now, here's my thing about that though. Like, I'm down, like, good, right? Like I am definitely all for that. But but how much are we gonna like it when Maine or any of those other kind of places, if the state, and this is how I feel about a lot of this stuff. This is how, like, you know, freedom of speech and all these things go. Like, yeah, we like it when it goes our way, but I don't know how I would feel as a citizen of a state and half the country. First of all, if everybody did popular, I'm down to get rid of it. I'm definitely down to get rid of it, period. However, if half the country doesn't do it and half the country does, and I know my state would have gone one way, but because the person I don't want to wins the popular vote, then all of its citizens decides, look, be careful what you wish for. That's all I'm saying. Be careful with what you wish for, because if not everybody's on board, that shit can go wrong quick.
In California, a former U.S. Marine has been sentenced to 9 years in prison for firebombing a Planned Parenthood clinic in Costa Mesa in 2022. Chance Brannon pleaded guilty in November. He admitted he'd also planned to attack a second Planned Parenthood clinic and an LGBTQ pride celebration at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. 2 other people involved have also pleaded guilty and will be sentenced in May. In a major win for LGBTQ rights advocates, a federal appeals court has blocked West Virginia's measure banning transgender children and youth from participating in public school and college sports.
And that's what we talk about when we start talking about stochastic terrorism right there, where people who are upset about this, right? And then what do? They go out and they start like setting in bomb threats or firebombing, places like the reading events, the drag queen reading events and shit like that, because they go out there and they think they have it in their heads. I've seen it firsthand. People who are out there and think they are literal like pedos and shit like that. It's disgusting.
Will not face internal discipline. New York's police commissioner, Edward Caban, said officers Brendan Thompson and Herbert Davis, quote, acted within the law when they entered Trowick's Bronx apartment, and Officer Thompson, who's white, shot him 4 times. Trowick, who was 32, an aspiring dancer, had a history of mental illness and was living in special housing when he called 911. The 2 officers found Trowick holding a knife as he repeatedly told them he was cooking and asked why the officers were inside his home. The full incident lasted less than 2 minutes. The officers did not face criminal charges. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!
That's Eric Adams, New York, right there. That's Eric Adams right there. A whole ass cop. All right, here we go. Anyone else think it's time to dissolve 50 individual states under one federal government? It doesn't work anymore. Probably never did. Ooh, spicy. God, just coming in. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Only because, nah, you know what? I don't fucking know. I think that would. I mean, if I'm going to sit here and say that the electoral college doesn't work, what does state rights have to do with anything? It's literally what we have in. It's what they wanted. The EU is how they wanted it. The founding fathers wanted it anyway, right? And we know that shit doesn't work, and we know that that some of these states just have stupid amounts of power to where only one party wants to like play by the rules, then it doesn't matter, because we look at what's happening with reproductive rights protections and all this shit. It's like, well, we would pass a law, but that's the right for the states to what wild. Midnight Monarchy says, not my name, thanks for holding down YouTube. I mean, all these states with different laws here, different there. Go to prison for abortion one state now, get an abortion another. So I do think that as far as administrative, like logistically, like allowing states to run their shit is probably better for the country overall, given how many people there are here. Like, we're talking about 330 some odd million people. The reason why the rest of the world doesn't really understand how we could, how Americans don't, know where this country is or that country is. It's like, bro, we're the size of an entire continent, when you look at like Europe and the United States and shit, right? So managing that many people. But where I do agree with you is that I think there needs to be a whole ass restructuring on what things could, what states are allowed to make laws on and what is reserved for the federal government. I don't think the Constitution did a good enough job describing that, honestly. I don't think the U.S. Constitution... I think the U.S. Constitution gives too much right to the states. Is slavery allowed or not? No, the states are not allowed to make that decision. Right? That is a federal. That is for the federal, and that has been outlawed in this country. What constitutes murder? Like. The fact that you theoretically could have a different definition for murder in one state and not the other, that shouldn't be up to a state. That should be up to the country. That should be up to the 100%. Now, you want to make like different laws on taxes or transport or even like vehicle laws. What is your max speed limit? How does that work? But I think the fact that a state can decide something as big as healthcare laws. Like, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense at all. How healthcare works should absolutely be federally mandated. 100%. Left Face, does anyone plan on watching Civil War, or has it watched it? How was it? Okay, look, I'm gonna tell you this much about Civil War. I fucking loved that movie. Maneater loved that movie. You right, Rough Rider. Damn. You're right. That is exactly correct. So real quick, I didn't plan to talk on it, and that's bad on me. What I want to do tomorrow is set up something, because I want to be able to legally get clips for the movie, and I also want to reply. I want to do a response to Tim Pool, because Tim Pool had a whole thing. Now, I love the movie, and I'll go further. I don't think that it was soft on deciding who the bad guys were. I saw that was a very common complaint, but I don't know. Like I said, to Maneater and I, it wasn't super on the nose. You know how like The Boys had people like wearing red hats and shit. You know what I mean? You had like, oh yeah, that's your Marjorie Taylor Greene character, and there's your AOC character, and you know what I mean, like that kind of shit. It didn't do that, right? So it's not going to hold anybody's hand. But the fact that the president, and I'm not going to do any spoilers. When I go through the review and then the response to Tim Pool's video, it'll be a spoiler video. That's why I want to wait and make sure I get everything. But the fact that you had the president, talking like about God a lot, talking about prayer a lot, talking about dismantling the FBI was a thing that happened. It was mentioned as a thing that happened in the past, not something that like happens in the movie. So that's not a spoiler. It's just like that's the world, right? So because the movie starts after the Civil War, it doesn't lead up to the Civil War. Also understand that it's an A24 movie, so I will tell you this much, right? No spoilers, but I will say this much. Go into it knowing it's an A24 movie, and go into it understanding that you are going to be following war photographers, right? Like you're like you know what I'm saying? Like these are we're not like following the people who are on one side or the other. You're kind of following these photographers, and you're seeing like the dichotomy of what's going on, and there is a lesson for it all, but it kind of is more along the lines of like how war affects humanity, like war is hell type shit, right? And so there is action, there is people dying and stuff like that, but it's hardly a war movie. It's mainly like how war affects these people and how it affects the United States. I thought it was fucking phenomenal. I thought it was a really, really good movie. So yeah, look forward to the review vid. But yeah, I'm definitely. So I put out a vid, by the way, on YouTube and TikTok. I'm trying to like be more consistent on TikTok. I put a bunch of videos on TikTok, and I've decided that I'm going to be doing more pre-recorded content, because the main thing I do is this stream, and then when I upload stuff to YouTube and to TikTok, it's 100% of it has been clips from this stream, right? But I wanted to test out how my ability to do things in a more scripted / outline sort of way. So recently I did a video because I uploaded a live stream segment about how Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico are all pretty much the same people, and yet today we're not, and that's because of colonialism. And let me tell you, people came out and were on both different groups of people, by the way, different platforms, different groups of people, talking about how Spain didn't colonize those islands. They settled them. Like, what the fuck? Like, somebody even said that the native indigenous people were treated well, and like who. So that video, I did, where I think it's titled Spanish colonizers are garbage water or something like that. Speaking of Spaniards, you killed it in the Spanish colonizers. Yeah, that one right there, that obviously you guys would know because you would have seen me do a stream. That was me doing it scripted / outlined, obviously just kind of talking, but pre-recorded, edited that way. So Blur Without Fear, Senpai, Blur Without Fear, he's been telling me I need to do that for a while. And so finally I'm like, all right. I think I know what I want to say on this one. And, I think my limitations are I speak more easily this way. Like the way I react, the way that I perform, you know what I mean? It has to happen organically. And I don't really like performing. Like how I'm talking like right now, how you guys see me every day, every day you see me stream, is literally how I would be talking if we were in the same room together. If we were homies and we were like, out for drinks and we got into talking about politics, this is how I act. This is how I it's just who I am. So maybe that's good or bad. Some people really know how to like get in your face and get more animated and what's up guys? And I'm just like, I don't know. I can't do all that shit. I don't. Oh shit. Okay, let's see. Anyways, keep an eye out for especially TikTok, because I'm gonna try to upload to both of them, but I'm gonna be really seeing where TikTok can go, and if I get an opportunity to go live, I'm gonna be streaming to there once I start. So there'll be a community that builds over there for sure. All right, let's go through this. I don't know if I'll watch the whole thing, but let's go through the worker strike and some people that got arrested striking against Israel.
Several Google employees, at least 9, were arrested Tuesday evening after staging sit-ins at the company's offices in New York and in California to protest the tech giant's work with the Israeli government. The sit-ins, organized by the activist group No Tech for Apartheid, took place at Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian's office in Sunnyvale, California, and the 10th floor commons of Google's New York office, which is right around the corner from Democracy Now! Protesters are calling for Google to withdraw from a $1.2 billion contract to provide cloud computing services.
I swear not a spell.
To the Israeli government, known as Project Nimbus. Last week, Time magazine reported Google's work on the project involves providing direct services to the Israeli military. The sit-ins were accompanied by outdoor protests at the Google offices here in New York and in Sunnyvale, San Francisco, and Seattle, Washington. Workers and outside activists have opposed the contract since it was signed in 2021, but protests have ramped up over the past several months since Israel's latest bombardment of Gaza. No Tech for Apartheid says Google is enabling and profiting from Israel's use of artificial intelligence to develop a kill list to target Palestinians in Gaza for assassination with little human oversight. The Israeli military is also...
We talked about that last time. There's 2 different AI programs, one that makes lists of target sites like buildings, and then one that makes lists for human beings, and exponentially increase the amount of targets they have. And like she said, exactly what she said, very little human insight. Basically, all someone does, according to their I forget what it was, what the publication who did the investigation is called. I forget, but they said that basically they look at it. Yep, it's male, military age male, MAM. That is exactly what they used while I was in Afghanistan too. That if you're a military age male, you're pretty much considered a target. And once it's a military age male, they approve it. So. And this is Google. Google is supplying the cloud-based shit that they need for that AI to work.
Using Google Photos for facial recognition across Gaza and the West Bank to identify and detain Palestinians.
This guy.
En masse. No Tech for Apartheid has published an open letter co-signed by 18 other groups that demands Google and Amazon immediately cancel their work on Project Nimbus. The letters gathered more than 94,000 signatures from the general public. For more, we're joined by 2 of the arrested Google workers. Ray Westrick is with us. She's a Google worker organizer with No Tech for Apartheid campaign. Among the workers who occupied Google Cloud CEO's Thomas Kurian's office in Sunnyvale, California. She's joining us from Sunnyvale. And here in New York, we're joined by Mohammed Khatami, a Google software engineer who was arrested at the sit-in at Google's office in New York. He's joining us along with Gabriel Schuvener, a former software engineer at Google Research and organizer with the No Tech for Apartheid campaign. And before that, he was with Jewish Diaspora and Tech. We welcome you all to Democracy Now! Mohammed, let's begin with you. You were just hours ago in the jail in the local police precinct. Talk about why you were willing to get arrested.
Yeah. Well, rather than, consider the demands that we've been raising for years now, and listening to workers and considering the things that we've been raising, Thomas Kurian and Google execs basically chose to arrest workers for speaking out against the use of our technology to power the first AI-powered genocide. So we were willing to get arrested for that because at this point we aren't willing to be lied to by our higher-ups anymore. We aren't willing to be disrespected by our higher-ups anymore. And we wanted to take that to the offices and make sure it was understood by them. Yeah.
How do you sense is the support that you have among other Google workers, the degree of the dissatisfaction with the policies of Google?
Yeah, I mean, Google has done a really good job at creating a culture of fear and retaliation against workers in general. But what we noticed was beautiful. So many people came up to our sit-in and basically showed support and felt that they were inspired by the work that we were doing and felt inspired to speak out, which is exactly what we were going for. We want workers to feel like we have the power to choose where our technology is going and who we're contributing to. So I felt really happy to see that. Yeah.
Ray Westrick, you're on the West Coast. You were arrested in California. Talk about this Project Nimbus and why you were willing to get arrested and what the response. Were you in the offices of the Google Cloud CEO?
Yes, we sat in at the office of Thomas Kurian, the Google Cloud CEO. To protest Project Nimbus, which is a $1.2 billion contract with the Israeli government and military between Google and Amazon. We also were demanding the protection of our coworkers, especially our Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim coworkers, who have been consistently retaliated against, harassed, and doxxed for speaking out about Project Nimbus and the humanity of Palestinians. So we were there in solidarity with them. We were there to protest the contract, which is being directly sold, providing technology directly to the Israeli military as it inflicts a genocide on Palestinians in Gaza. And yeah, that is why we chose to sit in Thomas Kurian's office.
And Ray, was there any response from the CEO or his office? And are you concerned about losing your job? Why did you decide to take this action?
Yeah, we did not receive any response from the CEO, and I think it's really telling that they would rather let us sit there for over 10 hours and arrest us for peacefully sitting in his office than have leadership engage in our demands in any way at all. So we've received no response from the CEO, and we were forcibly removed by the police. And working at Google has been, an honor. I really love my team. I love the work I do, but I can't in good conscience not do anything while Google is a part of this contract, while Google is selling technology to the Israeli military or any.
So this is what I'm talking about when we talk about like sponsors, right? And having your principles and it's like you have people out there who are not turning down sponsors for, millions of dollars. They're putting their ability to, feed themselves, their ability to pay rent at risk, based off of this stuff. And it's like, when you look at like, okay, would you take a sponsorship from Google? If they did this and that, and it's like, how could you in good faith? Like, how could you do that in good faith, knowing that what they're supporting and what people who are striking are able to do? This is the kind of shit that I find so motivating when people are willing to put their own freedoms on the line for what is right. I know not everybody's able to do that, but still.
Military. And so it was a risk I was willing to take, and I think it's a risk a lot of my coworkers are willing to take because a lot of people are really agitated about this and have consistently made their demands clear and have faced retaliation for it. So I chose to sit in knowing the risks out of care for the use of our technology, out of care for the impact of our technology, and care for my coworkers.
For our radio audience, I wanted to let people know that Ray is wearing a T-shirt that says Googler against genocide, with genocide and the famous multicolor of Google that it's so well known for. I wanted to bring Gabriel Schubiner into this conversation, a former software engineer at Google Research, an organizer with the No Tech for Apartheid campaign. And ask you, we had you on more than a year ago. This is before Israel's latest attack on Gaza, talking about exactly this. And you were with the Jewish organization of Google workers at that time, speaking out. Talk about the whole history of Project Nimbus and the resistance against it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Project Nimbus was signed in May of 2021. While bombs were being dropped on Gaza, while Palestinians were being evicted from Sheikh Jarrah and beaten at Al-Aqsa Mosque. That was really a point when we found out about Project Nimbus. Personally for me, it was a turning point where I no longer felt able to continue doing my work without engaging and organizing. There was a group of people that felt very similarly, so we started a petition. We were got connected with Amazon workers, with community organizations at Jewish Voice for Peace and Empower Change, and spun a campaign out of that. I want to be clear, the campaign really is driven by worker concerns and worker needs around the ethical use of our labor, as well as the direct workplace concerns of the health and safety concerns around working at a company that is facilitating genocide. We've known for a long time that this.
Okay, that's the video. I was like, is that my shit going with that sound?
Project was directly targeted at the military. It's been reported in press that Google was giving trainings directly to the IOF. We know that Google gave trainings directly to Mossad. We know that the IOF.
When you say IOF, explain the term,
yes,
because people are used to hearing IDF, Israeli Defense Forces.
Yeah, it's Israeli Occupation Forces, just to indicate, so we're not repeating their messaging, that their really aggressive repression of Palestinians is an act of defense. We know that it's an act of occupation, so we say IOF. And so we've known for a long time that this project was directly targeted at the Israeli military, but it was only recently through this last contract that Google signed directly with the IOF that I recognize that Google is really doubling down.
I like it, but it kind of it only works if you know what it means, though. I don't know if the messaging is really effective. I think it has one of those what is it? Not optics, but how does the messaging work when you keep referencing IOF and most of the people that are gonna hear it is gonna go, what is that? Like, I don't know who that is. Is that maybe it's an organization in the UN? I don't know.
That this contract is directly intended to facilitate military use. And we know that Google was chosen over other companies because of the advanced AI technology that they are able to offer. So given that we've learned how the IOF is using AI in this war, we really see this as a really critical campaign for Palestinian liberation. To speak to your point about the resistance against the project, we've been working against this project as workers for since it was signed 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes there's things that you can do that's you need to speak up. You need to make sure your voice is heard. I've been to protests before, and sometimes you show up and you do the thing, and you're like, good, this had to happen. But it's also what are you? There's a sense of frustration there, right? And I think I would be frustrated as well if it were, towards a company like Google. Google at this point is too big to fail, right? Google is embedded in our government. It's embedded in our military. It's everything. It is absolutely everything. And if you sit there and think that they're going to give up billions and billions of dollars to because like wow, we support police departments, we support the warfighting efforts of numerous nations. I couldn't give two fucks about anything, but you know what? We have people protesting against Palestine. Like, they're not gonna fucking do anything if it's not against the law. And so it's frustrating to know that that's the truth. What's up, Susan? Susan Turpin. Susan Turpin is here. We can start the stream now.
Google Cloud Services and Amazon Web Services underlie the vast majority of the internet. But there are other options. So technology workers actually have a lot of power to shift this paradigm and to like remove technology from this deep complicity with the Israeli occupation.
And does they have the ability to, right? But we as people have the ability to. I guess I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like of course we go out there, of course protest, of course make your voice heard. But sometimes it's just really frustrating to think these motherfuckers aren't going to do anything. You know what I mean? Not until you get a significant amount of the people for you. You know what I mean? Are the Google other tech workers, are they going to leave? Are any of them in a position to leave? It's shit like that. Just like, yeah, that'd be nice if we could get it to work, but will they go anywhere? Who knows?
Mohammed Khatami, can you talk about your own family background and why you so particularly care right now about what's going on in Gaza?
Yes. So I come from a Muslim family. I was raised Muslim. And it's really hard to wake up seeing the images of children slaughtered and know that you're, the work you're doing is contributing to this. I've lost sleep. It's just been extremely difficult to focus on work and think that you're working for something that is contributing to the mass slaughter that's taking place. And for speaking out against that, I've literally been called a supporter of terrorism, which is something that
called by
by coworkers and HR and
you see, like the first lady, the worker over on the West Coast. She might have had a good experience, but this is the kind of shit that I'd expect from like tech bros and shit. These are the people who are absolutely. I don't know how like anti-colonialism, how widespread it is in a place like in the tech field. I don't know. And that's what I would expect, actually. Like the kinds of people that are going to sit there and say, yeah, I'm totally like, yes, we're going to help Israel, fight the evil terrorists and the evil Muslims that are surrounding them and putting them in danger because that's what they want to do. They want to genocide them, even though they were never genocided before Israel in that area. So anyways. And so when they're sitting there and they're calling the protesters supporters of Hamas, like, is that what we're doing here? Hydrating, got it.
And people in the company supporter of terrorism, which is something it's like a schoolyard insult. It's something I haven't heard since middle school, and that's just an example of the retaliation and the harassment and the hatred that we face just for speaking up against our work being used in this way.
Are you concerned about losing your job?
Absolutely, but it doesn't.
His IQ isn't even close to Dennis. Damian H. He's not. This guy's not talking about Dennis. I know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't think it's that low either. Cenk Uyger is. I wouldn't call him like a super genius or anything, but I wouldn't. I don't think I would say. I don't think I'd insult him and say his IQ is as low as Dennis Prager. I wouldn't make that claim.
It's not even important to me at all compared to working for something that is meaningful and having a good impact on the planet. I don't want to have any association with this genocide.
Take care, Damien. As a former Republican who also will never go back. So I guess whatever that means.
side, and I would hope that Google would change their mind about it as well. Yeah.
And finally,
okay, all right, yeah. I mean, like that's the kind of shit that we expect out of mega corporations like that. Like what mega corporation do you expect is going to like side with people that are going to cost them billions and billions of dollars? You know what I mean? They're just not going to do that. But Damien H on the YouTube side gives a great segue, for us to go into this debate. So let's go ahead and see how they're doing. Let's do this. Well, let's see here. Israel, Iran, Palestine. Yeah, it's too many words and letters. Look at this man affiliated and shit, right? Right? What's up, Blurred? Let's see here. How do I want to name this? Let's just say Cenk v. Prager. There you go. Which is it's probably low-key disrespectful to Dave Smith and Batya Uyger Sargon. I'm really hoping she's not. Does anybody know who she is? Is this she's not related to Sargon of Akkad, right? No. Sargon of Akkad is not his real name. Never mind. I didn't say that. You didn't hear me say that. Why is Dennis Prager involved in any sort of debate? That's a good question. I mean, I could also say, I think I might be able to say the same out of everyone here. I don't know who Dave Smith is. Is Dave Smith is he a journalist? Is he a commentator? Who is that? Prager, I like my girls underage. You? True. Oh, man. Okay, let's see. Let's go through here. I think they're gonna have their opening statements. Oh, this is how the moderation is gonna go. We're gonna be I think he's actually setting up his first question here.
The Jewish women who they
that's loud.
raped.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zero Hedge debate. The topic today is Israel's invasion of Gaza morally justified? We will also be touching on the topic of Iran, anti-Semitism, free speech here in the United States. But before we get started, and I introduce everybody, we've got a quick word from our sponsor, Dave Smith.
During slavery, black people were happy. PragerU probably. PragerU almost for sure. You know, honestly, Prager has literally one good video, not even being sarcastic. It was the video that it's the video that I probably shared the most, like, however long ago, like 9 years ago, 8 years ago. And, it was the Civil War about slavery. And believe it or not, nailed it. I mean, it's a really fucking low bar. It's a really, really low bar. But he nailed it, unlike 98% of Republicans. And so I don't know that he would have been on board with Florida's, there were benefits to slavery bullshit. Like everything else he's doo-doo order on. Apparently he is he's okay on being historically accurate for slavery. Not historically accurate when it comes to how black people lived post-slavery, because everything was great after that, by the way. I don't know if you've seen those PragerU videos. Like, this is awesome. Like, what are you talking about? Like, America was a beacon of anti-slavery after that. Like, shut the fuck up.
Why don't you take it away?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, if you are tired of all the virtue signaling when you're simply trying to buy products, I know I am. Progressive corporate America continues to push messaging that further alienates conservative Americans, all while eroding the future of the American dream. It's prominent all over the country. Retailers selling sorry, selling tuck-friendly bathing suits to children, corporations pressuring their employees to conform to woke DEI policies, banks canceling customers.
Wait, he says a teleprompter? Is that what's going on? I don't even know what's happening right now. I thought this was introductions. Susan Jinx. We're all thinking the same thing. Like, what is happening here? What is this? We're all thinking the same thing.
Users being deplatformed by big tech or gender ideology being forced on you. Thankfully, we don't have to fund these companies any longer. With our hard-earned dollars with Public Square, we now have a solution. It's simple. Stop.
Oh, it is. It's an ad. It's an ad. That's why he's reading it. Because it says here, Zero Hedge Debate sponsored by Public Square. Why would you have one of the debate panelists do that? Why wouldn't you have the host do that? That's really fucking weird. That's really weird. Hey, I need one of y'all to read our ad. Like, what? Oh my Lord, that is something. That is something else. I'll tell you what. But I will say this much. We are gonna watch this. However, that did make me, think of something. Are you tired of wondering if your news is biased? Look, real quick. I don't know if you weren't here at the start of the stream. I talked about it a little bit, and I'm sure you guys might have noticed this little icon right here at the bottom. So I shot my shot last week, and I was looking for a way to figure out how I'm going to get to paying bills. But you know me, I could be annoyingly stubborn in my principles. And I didn't know who I could reach out to and still feel good about it afterwards, right? And so when I thought about Ground News and what they do, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try that out, because I do use Ground News quite a bit. If you guys don't know what that is, here, let's do this real quick. This is Ground News. Now, more than an aggregate, more than a news aggregator, what Ground News does is it tells you what the different articles that are out, the different headlines that are out there, but it also tell you who's reporting on it. And so there's different. I have a Vanguard account, so all the premium deals are unlocked here. Like, for example, this is how I read my news here. And then, daily local news. But I could also go down and see different things, like, for instance, the blind spot. And the blind spot is probably one of my favorites here. Like, it'll show, here's the things that are blind spots for the left. 14 troops, 4 civilians wounded in Hezbollah drone attack on the northern border. Bill Maher slams Canada. Some of these you can tell why it's on the left. Like, for example, John Leguizamo on Trump's Latino support. He doesn't like us. He doesn't like the left isn't as obsessed with celebrity culture as the right is, which seems counterintuitive for the way they talk about celebrity culture. But here's one for me right here. And I saw this earlier. Where is it? Where the fuck is it? Oh, okay, here we go, right here. Claudine Gay, who resigned due to plagiarism allegations to teach reading and research class at Harvard. Why do you think the left did not talk about this? Because it's a non-story. This is almost exclusively a headline ran by headlines from the left, from the right rather, and yeah, because who gives a fuck? You're talking about a professor who was pressured to resign for the sake of for the reputation of her school under some bullshit ass charges, is teaching reading and research. Yes, reading and research because that's what she does. And of course, who is that going to piss off? Who's that going to make mad, right? But there are blind spots that we're looking to see. I find this interesting because of how many family members I have on the right. So, like, I can look and know, oh, here's why, certain family members have never heard of this thing, because nobody on the right is reporting this sort of stuff, right? So Arizona Republicans again block attempt to repeal 1864 abortion ban. Fox News called him Marjorie Taylor Greene an idiot trying to wreck the GOP. Of course, the left is gonna fucking jump all over that shit. Why would anyways, listen, if that seems interesting to you, you could get this and support this channel by checking out check.ground.news/leftface and get 15% off any of the premium options they have on there. And then it would be also supporting this channel there too. They're not a news aggregate. They actually will give you stuff based off of what is out there and will purposefully give you stuff in your blind spot too. So it's not an algorithm to keep you only showing you stuff you want to see. And it's not a news aggregate where it's just like, website diarying news headlines onto your page. Like for instance, like google.news does. So if you do that, if you do decide to subscribe, check it out, and that supports this channel too. That'll probably go a little smoother whenever I get around to scripting something like that. They sent me all kinds of shit. They sent me like B-roll film that I could talk over as it's scrolling through the website, going through the stuff. I'm like, damn, look at all this shit. I probably should put something together then. All right, back to the debate.
Spending your money at companies that hate you and shift your dollars to companies who love truth and our country.
Our audience understands I'm going to be an aggressive moderator. I will cut people off. However, I just want to make it sure at the top that we can agree everything will be civil. No crosstalk if possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to do. Yeah.
Possible. Try not to cut each other off. Definitely no ad hominem attacks. That's going to be a total no-go, and absolutely be cutting that. I'm not going to be enforcing time limits in terms of responses, and I do encourage both interaction, asking questions to each other. If we do ask a question, I'm going to request both that it's actually answered and that it's engaged in a respectful manner, and I will be jumping in there a little bit. In general, I have questions that can help guide, but I really would like to leave it up to everybody here. And so I think with that, I'm going to offer some opening statements. I'll give everybody, let's say, a couple of...
I need a new back scratcher. This one is broken 3 times now. And now this one was, I have one more extension thing, and soon I'm not going to be able to reach the camera. So, I need a new back scratcher.
Minutes, like 3 minutes or so. And so with that, I think we should go ahead and start. We'll start with you, Dennis. Dennis Prager is the founder of Prager University and the host of the Dennis Prager radio show. On the topic, is Israel's invasion of Gaza morally justified? Let's start there.
Regarding branding, calling it Prager University and it being successful is actually pretty fucking smart. pretty smart. Because, Prager University. Of course this guy knows what he's talking about. Why is he sitting like a petulant child with his arms crossed? Yeah, because he's like, I'm ready. That side over there, they're big doo-doo heads, and I'm about to show everybody.
The stated topic. Go ahead, sir.
So thank you very much. Thank you all who are watching. By the way, which is my camera? Because I want to talk to the audience.
Go ahead. I think it's...
Is that it over there? Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. The dilemma in the Middle East has always been the same from the beginning of Israel's creation in 1948, and that is that its neighbors do not want there to be a Jewish state in their midst. That is the entire problem. One side, as I have put it all of my life, one side wants the other side dead. And in case you were in doubt about it, October 7th should have made that clear. If you really want to have a serious moral debate, and one should, and you're not already committed to the anti-Israel side, I have a question. And I think this...
Well, the question doesn't apply to me because, yes, I'm against ethnostates, period. So that was easy.
This question more or less clarifies everything. If Israel announced, we are disarming and we will fight no longer, what would happen? If the Palestinians said, we are disarming and we will fight no longer, what would happen? If you are intellectually honest, you know the answer to the question. The day after Israel announced it disarmed, you would have an October 7th of the entire population of Israel. There would be finally an actual genocide, not the false accusation of Israeli genocide in Gaza. If the Palestinians announced that, the next day, or perhaps the next week, there would be peace. This is the only time, as the little excerpt I saw when I spoke at Oxford and debated this issue, this is the only case in modern history where people believe the democracy, the free state, the state with an opposition press, an opposition
the ethno-state that has a free democracy for mainly Jewish citizens.
Party, civil rights for all its citizens, including its 2 million Arab citizens.
Yeah, civil rights that are almost equal to their Jewish counterparts. Almost. But not quite. So, you know, not equal.
The peace-loving state, the democracy, is the aggressor, and the police state that tortures its opponents, they're the good guys. That is how
Nope. Wrong. That is a straw man. There is nothing about the surrounding states that make me think they're the good guys just because Israel's the good guys. There's nothing about Hamas that makes me think they're the good guys. Personally, I would not want to see a militant Islamic fundamentalist theocracy, run anything. But that doesn't make Israel the good guys, right? Also, I like the way this is presented because let's put it into American terms here. You have the transatlantic slave trade. You have the southern slave holding. Well, they all had slave holding, so that's all right. Sorry. So you have slave owning states, right? And slave holding states, and you say to them in the middle of slavery, well, what would happen tomorrow if you gave all their guns up? If we gave all our guns up and just handed it to the slaves, what would happen? Now ask yourself, what would happen if they all stopped being violent and just did the work that they're supposed to? Now, if you're intellectually honest, you would know that the day after we gave all the slaves guns, every white person in the United States would be dead. Because they would actually make sure that everyone died. But if we take the guns, what happens to them? They're all alive. They're fed, and they get work done, and they help America become a powerful nation. So who actually wants to genocide who here? You see, when we ask questions like this, we're starting way after the start of everything, which wasn't fucking October 7th. We're starting after you have created a situation for the last, 100 years to have a situation where, yes, right now you have created a situation where everybody is turning to an Islamic fundamentalist organization and probably would fucking kill you after what has been done to them for the past 75 years. The Haitian enslaved people doing what they did to the French is not an indictment on their character. It is an indictment on the treatment that they experience while being enslaved.
Inverted it is. I have a theory as to why everything is inverted, and I believe it is because it is the one Jewish state in the world.
And the reason why nobody wants us to have an ethno-state is because everybody hates us.
There are 22 Arab states. There are 52 Muslim states. There are 200 states around about that number all over the world. Only one is targeted for extinction. There is no other state targeted for extinction. Only the one Jewish state the size of New Jersey. And so that is the issue. One side wants the other side dead.
I think Prager is Jewish. I don't think he's Christian.
And it has been true since 1948.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much. Cenk, why don't we go to you, founder of the Young Turks? Go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, we should clarify the question, because if we're saying, hey, was Israel right to go in the first place after October 7th? I say yes, but it depends on how, and how long do you stay, how do you conduct affairs, etc. If we're talking about how Israel has conducted this war and whether they should still be in there, that's a hard no. It's not even close. It's been absolutely atrocious what they've done. And not only has it killed over 33,000 Palestinians, with probably a lot more than that inside the rubble, 76,000 wounded, 1.1 million people starving. If you think that that is good for Israel, I think that you ought to have a sanity check. So not only is it devastating for the Palestinians, potentially devastating for the world, as Netanyahu now agitates for a broader war with Iran engulfing the entire Middle East, which will be catastrophic for America and the world. But for Israel itself, if you want a safe haven for Jews, you must.
Yeah, he was raised by Polish Jewish immigrants. He went to college and majored in history and Middle Eastern studies. Over the next few years, he attended courses at Columbia University, International Public Affairs. Prager left modern orthodoxy, but maintained many traditional Jewish practices. He remains religious. Yeah, he's Jewish. You thought he was Christian because, you know, Christians will do with him what Christians do with a lot of marginalized people is, you know, do you promote my supremacy, and then I can look to you and go, see, I don't hate Jewish people. I love Dennis Prager. He's saying all the right shit.
Stop the occupation. 75 long, brutal.
Exactly. Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro are in the same boat.
Years. So it's one thing to say, hey, theoretically, Hamas would do this. And by the way, I'm then going to say all Palestinians would do that, or all Muslims would do that. That's a dangerous area to go to, right? It's another thing to say, yes, well, while they theoretically don't want our state to exist, we are actually preventing their state from existing. I mean, it's such an ironic argument. Hey, we prevented their state for 75.
Jewish people existed in the Middle East, in the Levant, prior to the Balfour Declaration. Prior to any of this, they existed in Saudi Arabia. They existed in Morocco. They existed in Palestine. And during their existence there, as a very small minority, during their existence, while they were a small minority, they were never rounded up and genocided. Never. Now, were there things where they attacked, or people who are opposites on regarding religion? That happens. That sucks. But they also attacked Muslims, but by and large, they lived peacefully amongst the Arab people. So the idea that if they were to not have a Jewish state, they would be genocided. Why didn't it happen for the 1,400 years they were not in power? Why are we worried about this? We have people starving here. Homelessness is on the rise. Gab gas, etc. Why are so many concerned with another country when we have shit over here? Because Laurent Pierre, because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Because you could be, because you can understand that bad shit happening somewhere is still worth mentioning. But I will tell you this much. The reason why specifically this one, right? Because I get that. I don't know what side of the spectrum you're on, Pierre, but I get that often, even from people on the left, like black and brown people saying, "Hey, look, we got a bunch of shit happening here. Why are maybe we need to be focusing on that." Some, by the way, not a lot, but some have said that, and I'll say this much: the reason why is because our money is going over there. We are sending billions and billions of dollars to them in order for this to happen. There's a lot of other atrocities happening in the world, some that I probably should be paying more attention to. But we don't fund those atrocities. And so I only have so many brain bites to care about shit. And so I do care about what's going on in the United States. I care about the wealth gap. I care about the horrors of capitalism. I care about protecting trans kids and LGBTQ rights. I care about whether or not the people who come into power are really out to destroy democracy or what weak version we have here in the first place, right? Like, I do care about all that. But you know what else I care about? I care that you're a leftist. Okay, I'm a leftist too. But one thing I do care about is the fact that we, as a country, your country, is sending billions and billions of. I'm saying your country because I'm assuming when you say another country that you're American. But I tell you what, if even if you're Canadian or in Europe somewhere, you're probably sending way too much fucking money to them too, and you should care about that. You know, you should care about that. Hey, Dr. Midnight, take care. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for taking care of the family illness. Oh, I hope they're all better. I don't know if they're not. I hope they get better soon. Take care. Susan and Lauren, I'm somewhat prone to agree with you, but that requires Republicans actually taking care of homeless people and inflation and veterans and not using them as pawns in their political game. 100%. 100%. I'll even go further to say that the Democrats do the same thing. You know, I think there is a again, I do not do the whole they're both the same thing. I don't do that. But I do think there's a difference, and you can see that by the way red states and the laws they've passed on reproductive rights and the LGBTQ rights and trans kids, and the way blue states protect them. And there's a huge difference, right? But holding on, not codifying, I don't know if this is conspiracy theory. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and put this. We're going to file this under conspiracy theory, but it's one that I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And it's, we didn't codify Roe v. Wade because we needed something to make the Republicans scary and keep you voting for us for. Like, if we codify Roe v. Wade and now that ends the discussion, now we don't have that to go, hey, you got to keep voting for us. The Republicans are going to take it from you. Now, can I prove that? Is that, do we know that's what happened? No, that's why I'm okay with calling it a conspiracy theory. But I mean, do we trust them? No.
5 long years, we prevented them from having freedom.
Oh, that answers your question. Really, it could have been a 2-second answer. Because we send billions of dollars to support this genocide. That's why.
For 75 long years, we've brutalized them in every possible way. We've humiliated them in every possible way. Number one, we can't believe they're fighting back. Are you serious? We'll talk a lot about this in the debate. But so, would people have been surprised if Jews fought back against the Germans during World War II? Would that have been terrorism? Is that what it would have been? That's outrageous to say that. Of course Jews should have been able to fight back against the Germans. Any occupied people should be able to fight back. We can go to Armenians fighting back against the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so those are my original people. I'm Turkish descent. And if you said, oh, the Armenians, how dare they? They should have loved the Turks. And they should have said the Turks are the greatest people on earth. And they should have been occupied and accepted their occupation. I can't believe they fought back. And you know what? When the Turks moved them and killed them, they were just defending.
Yeah.
Themselves. They have a right to defend.
I have a feeling Prager is going to have thoughts on if it constitutes a genocide, et cetera, et cetera.
Themselves, guys. If you're in that camp, I don't think you understand how biased you sound and how it does not sound to anyone outside of your camp that you're in a rational.
Damn. Did David Smith... I think I skipped past the ad and the introduction to who David Smith is. I'm going to figure this out.
World. So if you want Israel to be safe, you must end the occupation. It is not optional. So is the goal here to say, as Netanyahu is clearly saying now, he's saying, I do not want a two-state solution. Permanent occupation means permanent war, permanent terrorism, and a disaster for Israel, let alone the Palestinians.
Got it. Batya, why don't you go ahead? Batya Ungar-Sargon, she is opinion editor at Newsweek, and she's the author of Second Class, How the Elites Betrayed America's Work.
So everybody in here is in journalism except for Dennis Prager. So David Smith is the Washington, D.C. bureau chief of The Guardian. So that's a paper. She's an editor at a newspaper. Cenk Uyger. You know what? That's not fair. That's not fair. We're going to say that, PragerU is a conservative and TYT is whatever the fuck TYT is.
Working men and women, which we have a copy of on the desk right over there. She was so kind to give us one. Go ahead, Batya. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here with this panel. Are we all in agreement that Israel was just to invade after October 7th? Cenk, you agreed with that. Dennis, you obviously agreed with that. I agree with that. Dave, are you in agreement that that was a just...
I would say, like Cenk, it depends on what you mean by
what
invade.
followed.
Sure.
But the initial invasion itself, you could see that from a just point, that that would have been justified based on October 7th, based on had they conducted themselves. There was a way that Israel could have conducted itself that you would have felt comfortable with that as a reaction to October 7th. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, look, if you're spending your opening asking me a question, it's a fairly complex question. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think TYT getting the squinty eyes is definitely at a minimum. At a minimum, the only reason why TYT gets any love from me is because of the other shows that they have. And again, we start talking about needing to pay bills and put food on the table. I'm not ready to throw out people just because they left. I used to like, so talking about Benny, how they got rid of Benny, etc. when they decided to step out of line. Did Benny, I can't remember, did Benny get fired or did Benny leave? I thought Benny left.
But I would certainly say that Israel was more than justified in pursuing and killing anybody who was involved in October 7th.
Why don't we cut the questions there? Continue with your opening statement. We'll get to
Well,
that.
I think that's very important because then we can narrow the scope of the debate. It doesn't have to be about whether the war is just, but whether Israel's behavior since invading was just and the way that it has carried it out. And I think the answer to that is very clearly yes,
Definitely.
because first of all, the measures that Israel has taken, obviously we look at the destruction and it is horrifying. We see these children, we see women.
She's going to say that the measures that Israel has taken to not kill everybody all at once is how we know they care. Sometimes, even when you're careful, you're going to just kind of kill 33,000 people, 60 to 70% of which are women and children, that's war, guys. 33,000 in what's that? October, November, December, January, February, March, April. In 6 months, 33,000 in 6 months. Come on.
See people being impacted in the most horrific way, and it looks horrible. But the reality is that war is horrible, and the thing that we have
like verbatim
to determine is Israel engaged in a war or in war crimes? Right? Is Israel engaged in a justified response to a heinous attack, or is it going and doing things that are beyond the pale? And
yes, that one. Got it. All right, next. That one. What the fuck?
And the evidence seems to suggest that Israel is not only behaving in a way that every other army has behaved in a very similar situation, but in a much more careful way, despite the massive destruction. And the evidence for that is in the efforts that they have made, the millions and millions of phone calls they make. You understand that Israel telegraphs to the enemy before every single thing that it does in Gaza. They're literally giving away the plan in order to get civilians out of harm's way. Now,
So Benny, I just looked on the other screen. Benny did leave and wasn't fired, but I think it's kind of like splitting hairs because basically what TYT did was make a bunch of statements, especially Anna Kasmarian, make a bunch of statements and claims, that let them know they did not support Benny, and let them know that she wasn't safe there, and so they left. But yeah, they weren't fired. But I mean, what does it matter when you know? Look, I didn't fire old dude. I just said that people are allowed to say the N-word in my company. And and just because we have a minstrel blackface day doesn't mean that the guy had to leave. Jesus.
More be done, more can always be done. But have they gone further than any army in human history? The answer is yes. The number 33,000. Last week, Hamas put out a statement on Telegram in which they said they cannot account for 11,000 of those. So Hamas itself reduced the number to 22,000, which means that if you take the number of Hamas soldiers who have been killed, right? Israel says 13,000. Hamas itself in February admitted to 6,000. We're talking about a ratio of combatants to non-combatants that, again, simply has not been seen in urban warfare. All of these things, I think, come together to suggest that despite the enormous devastation, and I'm with you on that emotionally, we have to...
No, I did not see that. But Olay was there and served them up.
Analyze this objectively and conclude that if you are saying 33,000 as the number of dead, you are mourning the butchers. And
no, you're not. You're mourning human beings, you stupid, stupid person. You know what? Not stupid. Not stupid. She's not stupid. She's a piece of shit. That's what she's, a horrible ghoul monster person. And they're human. They're human beings. And even if they were fighters, they would be human beings. They would be oppressed human beings that are fighting for their freedom, that are fighting their oppressors. That's what they were doing. Even if we're talking about just October 7th, how many fighters were involved in that? Did you kill them, or did you kill everyone and their mom and their kids and their grandmother and their uncles and their dads? And it's like, I'm trying to go after these people that did this thing. And also you got to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? By what? Killing 33,000 people, 60% of which are women and children? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fucking goddamn.
I think that's shameful.
Elite X1, what's good?
I think it's really important that people who are mourning the civilians make sure that they are careful, that they are not mourning exactly what we all have agreed on, which is that the butchers, Israel had every right, not just every right, but a moral right and a moral obligation to kill them.
Got it. Thank you, Bacha. Dave, you can go ahead. Comedian, and he's host of the Part of the Problem podcast. Go ahead, Dave.
Sure.
Okay. Well, all right. I don't know who I looked up. It looked like him. It was a similar guy. But you know what they say about white people? You white, you Ben Affleck. He's a Canadian. He's a comedian. Canadian. He's a comedian and a podcaster. So, all right. Let's hope this is good.
Well, since we have a short opening here, I think I'll just respond to a couple things that I've heard you guys say so far. So one of the things that I notice almost in every war is that it kind of drives people down to this most base collectivist understanding of what's going on here. You know, this side is bad, this side is good, and no one really sees the nuance that there are individuals involved. So for example, in the war between Ukraine and Russia, you see people who have the Ukrainian flag in their Twitter bio, and they celebrate when there's a Russian defeat, never really considering the fact that many of these Russian young boys were conscripted into this army, and that they're victims too. And, you know, when Mr. Prager says one side wants peace and the other side wants to kill all of these people, it's a very convenient collectivist way to look at things, but the objective reality of the situation here is that there have been atrocities on both sides committed against the other side. This is true throughout the history of the existence of Israel. This is true before the existence of the State of Israel, with the Zionist settlers, the British, the Arabs. There were atrocities committed on all sides. And to say that...
Is his opening statement really both sides in this? That's wild. That's That's wild.
That everybody, as if, or to imply that everybody on the Israeli side just wants peace, and everybody on the Palestinian side just wants, that is just not true. There are lots of Palestinians who just want peace, and there are lots of Israelis who want their land and are quite willing and will openly, explicitly say they're willing to do whatever it takes to take their land. Now, to your point about how, I mean, you said every single strike they're warned. No, that is just not true. That's objectively not true. They do warn sometimes, but then that also leads to the question of, does that mean that whatever you do is just okay? The reality is that this is not...
When they're warned, they're told to leave. Where the fuck do you go? Where do you go?
Not just a war like any other war. And that doesn't mean other wars are justified necessarily, but there's a very big difference in this war compared to almost any other war we could think of. And the major difference that I see is that Israel has dominated the Palestinian people since at least 1967, and we could probably go back before that. Let me just say this. If we look at things in not a collectivist way, and we recognize that there are individuals, and these individuals make up different groups. Let's say we have the group that is Hamas, made up of individuals, but that's Hamas. Within that group, we have the militant Hamas, and we have the political arm of Hamas. They are different. We also have Israel, which is made up of its citizens. We have different political parties within Israel. Okay, let's take this one group for a second. The innocent Palestinians. I hope both of you would concede that such a group does exist. There are some people on the pro-Israel side who will explicitly tell you that that group does not exist. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, there is no group that has been more victimized than the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, maybe we ought to think about that group. Nobody has been through it worse than that group, the innocent Palestinians. And at a certain point, I think the question needs to be asked, does Israel have a right to do what it's been doing to the innocent Palestinians for many, many decades now?
Thank you guys very much. You all stayed within the time limit, which is actually incredible. And Batya, you did steal a little bit of my thunder because, and I'm big glad that you answered that question. Dave and Cenk both responded in that way about how exactly what the question and the superimposed upon that is that do we agree that Israel at least either had a right or was justified in taking some action as a result of October 7th. So my question, I think, to both of you, and both of you can feel free to chime in after both of them has responded, is if we look at the original statements for the war and for the invasion, is that the Israeli military was supposed to accomplish a few objectives. Number one, they had to destroy Hamas, the militant terrorist organization. Two, they had to lead to the release of the hostages. And three, they had to make sure that an October 7th could never happen again. So in the conduct of the war so far, do you believe that they have been successful with those objectives? Dennis, why don't you go ahead and go first?
None of us knows yet. Israel is being prevented by much of the world, and
prevented. When I prevent somebody, I make sure that that the people I'm preventing from doing something gets to keep doing that thing. That's how I prevent them. Also, I make sure that they keep getting billions of dollars. Ukraine's money's been held up. Ukraine munitions and money are being tied up by people who are using it in our government, who are using it as a chess piece in their negotiations. But you know who's not getting held up? Not by Republicans, and sure as fuck not by Democrats, is the billions and fucking billions of dollars moving to Israel. So yeah, that sucks to be prevented that way. I wish people would start preventing me from doing shit.
I feel that on this entire issue, I'm living in a make-believe world. Every analogy could have been applied to Nazi Germany. There were innocent Germans who were killed by the Allies in the bombing and in invasions and so on. No one denies that. But I
didn't expect Dennis Prager to go there. But apparently we're not supposed to give a fuck about the civilians of October 7th. I didn't, you know, obviously I'm being tongue-in-cheek. Obviously he's calling Palestine the Nazi organization, right? But, you know, which organization holds fascistic views, which side are fascist, which side is called for genocides in this current conflict that we're in, and I'll tell you what, if I'm gonna call anybody the Nazi in this allegory, ironically and sadly and tragically, it's gonna be Israel. And so if we use that thought process that Dennis Prager is using to say that, hey, should we care about the German civilians? By the way, yes, absolutely. Go look at why we have the Geneva Conventions. Go look at one of the greatest, one of the most massive atrocities, and a name escapes me right now, but there is a city in Nazi Germany that the Allied people fucked up, bombed, fucking tons of civilians wiped out, German civilians. And that whole thing brought about the conversation with regard to the Geneva Conventions. So yeah. First of all, you're wrong. Yes, you could still care about German civilians, fucking idiot. And then two, in this case, you guys are Nazi Germany. And I know that's hot take. I guess it's he would say that's anti-Semitic, but you are. And so be careful, because if I think you're the Nazi Germany in this allegory, I still wouldn't think that the civilians of October 7th don't matter. But you would want me to, because that's your process.
Only means that every innocent German's life that was taken is the responsibility of the Nazis. Every innocent Palestinian life that has been taken is the responsibility of Hamas or Hezbollah. That's it. The analogy.
And every single civilian Jewish life is the responsibility of the IDF. Okay, got it. Cool. You heard it. You heard it here. I guess we're not supposed to care about the civilian lives lost on October 7th. That's wild.
He is perfect. There is one difference between Hamas and the Nazis. And I never called any group in my 40 years of radio Nazi. I never called an individual that, other than the Nazis of the 1940s. But there is only one difference between Hamas and the real Nazis of Germany. The Germans hid their atrocities. Hamas boasts and videos them.
Bache, go ahead.
Which side does not allow journalists embedded with their people? Help me out here. Which side does not allow journalists? Which side kills journalists? Hiding their atrocities. Interesting. Very interesting.
I think that they have, I would say, destroying Hamas, definitely. They're not going to get every single one, but the idea that Yahya Sinwar will ever breathe open air again seems to me very far-fetched. I think they have driven.
Yeah, but you gotta find those. And by the way, that's different. Come on, that's you just like making fun of the slaughtered people that you find, throwing random grenades into mosques where people are hiding. Let's see, dressing up, committing war crimes, dressing up as medical personnel, which is literally against the Geneva Conventions, literally a war. If you want to have a debate about, is it war? Does this count as Germany? Does this count as Germany? Does this count as a genocide? Sure, you could have those debates, whatever the fuck you want to do. But you know what is actually completely against the law? To dress up as medical personnel. It is illegal. Internationally, it doesn't fucking matter. It is illegal. And that is exactly what Israel did in the West Bank. Dressed up as medical personnel, came in with weapons, and then killed the Hamas operatives who were getting care there. Also illegal. Okay? So let's see. That is there. I mean, every time they make an argument, it sounds like they're arguing against themselves, really. IDEA practically live stream their war crimes and daring someone to call it a genocide. Yeah, but don't forget, We're talking about the IDF live streams their war crimes by the IDF, like you know what I mean? And they still not letting the journalists in. They're still not letting anybody film them. So they can try to control the narrative, and they still suck at that. They're controlling the narrative, and they're still fucking like oh yeah, and check out this attack we just did. It's pretty dope, isn't it?
And him underground forever. And, you know, they've cut off the head. And the idea that Hamas will be able to regroup at this point seems to me very unlikely. The release of the hostages, no, they failed on that front. I think they tried. Maybe they could have tried harder. I think they tried. Oh, you know what's wild is not knowing where the hostages are, right? Because if they knew, you just go ahead and send your fucking Delta Force, Navy SEAL, fucking whatever the fuck you guys have, and go get them, right? You just fucking cut your way into there and get it, right? You don't know where they're at, and still you are indiscriminately bombing. I'm sorry, not indiscriminately bombing. Carefully bombing with precision strikes, with great care and great warning. How else can you explain 33,000? What's up, CG? One consequence of smartphones is that it has become all too clear that the war crimes are such a pervasive thing in war. Oh my God. Yes. That would require caring about hostages. Yeah, they don't give a fuck about them hostages. Can you imagine how different the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq would have gone if we had cell phones? Can you imagine? It just wild to me. And you know how I know that? Because when I was in Afghanistan, the only reason why I can say this is when I was in Afghanistan in 2012, 2013. This is the part. This is the where I can say, and this is not defense of the United States. This is a product of cell phones and journalism and shit like that. Where when I was there, it was you like zero civilian casualties were tolerated. And like one civilian casualty happens and you're like, fucking people are getting sent home. People are getting court-martialed. Like, it's a big deal. Why? Because after 20 years, after however long it was, 10, 12, 13 years of fucking not giving a fuck about civilians, suddenly we grew a heart. Is that what happened? Suddenly we just like, suddenly my heart breaks for them. No. It started becoming a big deal because our shit started blowing up because technology was advancing too fast for us. And the shit we were able to get away with in 2001, in 2006, 2007, the shit we were able to get away with was not, you couldn't get away with it anymore. So now like they're cracking down. Wild. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of them are dead. There's a lot to say about that, but I think on that
and probably killed by the IDF, actually. Probably killed by the IDF.
Obviously failed. And as to another October 7th, I think a lot of that has to do with what we're seeing now in terms of the realignment happening in the Middle East, to where you see Saudi Arabia clinging to the idea that they too will be able to join the Abraham Accords at some point. The moderate Sunni and Gulf states rushed to Israel's defense, amazingly, to protect them from these Iranian rockets. And to me, that is, I don't think this is a moral question so much as a strategic one. And I'm sure we're going to get into where does the United States fit into all this? Where do we want the United States to fit into all this? But from that point of view, and an Iran-backed October 7th, should it happen again, is going to happen in a very different Middle East, one in which Israel has a lot of support from the Arab nations, and that makes it less likely as well, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just kind of I'm blown away by the statement that Mr. Prager just made, that the only difference he can see between the Nazis and Hamas is that the Nazis hid their atrocities. So if that's the only difference you can see, I have a few others that pop to mind. The Nazis were a government. The Nazis had an army. The Nazis had an air force. The Nazis had submarines. distance the Nazis controlled from France to Poland in all of Europe, whereas Hamas can't even control Gaza effectively. I mean, I find the statement that you can't see any differences between the Nazis killed
Do you see a
over.
moral difference?
Well, okay, but hold on. But you said that wasn't what you said. What you said is that you can't see a difference. The Nazis, okay, but yes, I see a moral difference. The Nazis killed over 10 million people outside of the war conflict, just in terms of people that they killed, let alone the tens of millions of people who you might hold them responsible for. So yes, I do see a moral difference between the two. I'm not saying October 7th was horrifically immoral, but if you're going to say, do you see a moral difference, that would be like if somebody had murdered 2 people and you went, I see no difference between that and the Nazis. Okay, yes, they're both immoral, but there's enormous differences between the two. Now, to the other point of the idea of can Israel eliminate Hamas, even if they were, which I don't think is feasibly possible, that they eliminated everybody who is a member of Hamas. I mean,
no, they can. They can do that. And they do that by doing exactly what they're doing. They do that by doing the thing they say they're not doing. And that's a genocide. That's what they do. They push everybody, which is the goal, which has been the goal since fucking 1967 and before. They want to, you are either dead or you are pushed out pushed out of the country. And then it all becomes one giant ethno-state. So that's how you do it.
In order to do this, you would have to look at, if the images of Gaza City aren't enough, you would have to look at images 5 times over of that. And this is
let's check this out real quick. This is good. Some we'll get back to this, but some quick positivity here. I feel bad because my local Palestinian activist group, Savannah for Palestine, they went and protested at Lockheed Martin, but I got some really bad news that I think I'm going to share with you all a little bit later. I just don't want to derail the stream yet. But yeah, I just been in a weird headspace, but check this out.
Let's remember that over half of our federal taxes go to war. That is past wars. That is future wars. That is every 95% of the bombs dropped in Gaza were made by the U.S. and supplied by the U.S. That is where our taxes are going. Money for healthcare and education. Money for healthcare and education. Not for war and occupation. Not for war and occupation.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Going to result in just slaughtering innocent people, not to mention the excess mortality where hundreds of thousands of people are going to die as a result of this in the future. But even then, you would just be dealing with another Hamas-like group. Because if you don't understand what creates this problem to begin with, look, this is the problem. This happens all throughout history, all throughout the world. If you want, there's a reason why the Nazis only rose. First, it was after we imposed Versailles. But then, as you know, it was after the Great Depression, when there was hyperinflation. When things go terrible, that's when the worst, most violent extremist groups rise. Dennis, and that's what the future is going to be, unfortunately.
Can I respond just very briefly
to
that?
And then Dennis can go.
Something really staggering has happened.
Yeah, he's been. I was just about to say, I'm like, he's good when it comes to like rhetoric and snark, I guess. Like he made him feel stupid. But I'm like, earlier, you would have loved to see G. A straight up both sides. I'm like, look, to say that they all want to do this, I mean, there's been atrocities on both sides. Like, he straight up, his opening statement had a both sides deal. I was like, all right. And then and since then, he kind of gives. It's not really like an intellectual debate, but more about snark and rhetoric. So I was just like, ugh.
Been in Gaza since October.
Appreciate you, Sig Fang.
7th, which is there have been protests against Hamas for the first time well, there were protests actually recently in 2019, but they were quashed by Hamas in a very aggressive, violent way. But the people of Gaza, the innocent people of Gaza, yes, who you mentioned, are speaking out against Hamas because Hamas is stealing their food and their aid, and they are seeing, I mean, they've known all along the role Hamas plays in their oppression. But the fact that Hamas has lost support in Gaza since October 7th, while gaining support massively in the West Bank, right? I mean, which speaks to how different the Palestinian populations are in the different areas. I just don't buy it that Israel is creating more and more Hamases and Hamases and Hamases. I think that there's evidence that actually the opposite is happening, that the people of Gaza are seeing we have to get out of this cycle.
Go ahead, Dennis.
That's insane, by the way.
We'll get to, I'll come to you next.
I hate to put it this way, but I mean it sincerely, so I will. You are on record now, because the internet has a permanent memory.
I'm aware.
Of saying that there's no comparison morally between Hamas and the Nazis.
No, he hasn't let that go. He said that like 10 minutes ago, homie. He's been holding on to that one.
No,
you
changed.
Wait, no, yes, he's on the
well,
record.
For the record,
you
changed. You changed what I said a little bit. But sure.
No. Yeah. Wait. So
no, I didn't say that.
Wait. All right, you don't. So you think morally they are similar? Yes or no?
See, that's that conservative little thing they do. Yes or no? No nuance, no explanation. I need a yes or no. Are they similar? So you notice he said they were you notice he said there was no difference, and then when he says, "Well, I didn't say that," he says, "Oh, so you think they are similar? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?" So that way, when you go no, yes, and then you can get you see they're the same now. Yeah, as a God, fucking people like that just need to be like, just one kick in the dick. That's it.
You said I can't see anything different about them except
that
the Nazis.
Everyone knows I was talking morally. Of course, Hamas does not control the same number of countries.
Mr. Prager, what's beautiful?
No, but that matters, you dumb fuck. The imbalance of power matters. The fact that they have, that's why he brought it up, the power that they had an air force, they had tanks, they had submarines, the fact that they had complete and utter control of Europe at one point, the fact that these were a small minority in your population despite your fucking anti-Semitic Nazi propaganda, that fucking matters. So moralistically, the fact that they were in power and had control of the state and fucking much of the continent fucking matters, you stupid shit. The fact that Palestine has not had control, that has been subjugated, that has been forced into an open air prison, that sits there and fires fucking faulty fucking rockets off of wooden sleds, matters. Yes, it's not the same. Again, in this analogy, Israel is Nazi Germany.
The internet is what you just said. It is on record, so people can see what
That's
I said,
correct.
and then they can see what you
That's
said.
demagogic.
That's right.
Go ahead, sir.
There is no moral difference between the Nazis and Hamas. Both want to exterminate Jews. That is what we're talking about, not whether or not the Hamas has taken over Czechoslovakia. That's an irrelevant point to what I made. There is no moral distinction. Hamas would like to butcher every Jew in Israel, maybe in the world, I don't know, but certainly in Israel. It's in their charter, and that's what they announced. They're proud of October 7th. They are proud of rape. They are proud of burning Jewish
What's up, DSB?
families, and the Nazis were proud, but the Nazis hid it. And Hamas boasts about it. That's the one difference.
Cenk, go ahead.
Again, that's the one difference. See,
Yes.
you make the point again. That's not the one difference. There's other differences also. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Alice in Wonderland. It's, if anybody watched this debate and they didn't know what was happening in the world, they would think, oh my God, I guess Hamas is this giant power. And
Boom. There you go, Cenk. That's it.
It's been abusing Israel.
Don't ask Cenk about trans rights or law enforcement. Or crime and punishment. You know, you keep Cenk off that panel, or you can put him in there with the Republicans because that's what he fucking argues anyway. But but he's pretty solid on this.
The entire time, poor little tiny Israel, and Hamas is this gigantic power crushing Israel. What are you guys talking about? Hamas has got pea shooters. They did terrible damage on October 7th. Now Israel's done 30 times worse to the civilians. They've massacred civilians after civilians after civilians. Israel is Goliath. It is not David. It is the Germans in terms of military power. It is not the Jews. The Palestinians are the equivalent of the Jews during the Holocaust. They have
Which is your typical liberal anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your typical liberal is like, don't kill gay people, and you should be nice to black people. Not like that though. Not like that. That's too much nice. Too much nice. Bring it back a little bit.
been put into ghettos, then they have said, you have no freedom. You will serve us and serve us only. And right now they're saying we're going to have permanent occupation. And wait, so were the Jews not supposed to fight back against the Germans? Do the Palestinians, hold on, do the Palestinians not have a right to defend themselves? Does it only go one way, where Israel can crush? And how dare you lowly Palestinians fight back? How dare you? Now we'll kill 30 times more of you and we'll occupy you forever and ever and ever. And we're supposed to accept that? Are you guys nuts?
So, does anybody else get like a little bit of like a little bit of cringe whenever Cenk goes in? So like, calm down. You're like,
they're never going to accept it. Never ever. Batya, I love you, but if you think that the
look, whenever I get mad on stream and I start ranting, I need somebody who really loves me. If you love me, you'll DM me and be like, "Hey, bro, you kind of sound like that when you go in." I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, let me chill.
Palestinians are now more anti-Hamas and more pro-Israel. You have lost your mind.
I know you will, Susan. Thank you. You caught that, huh? I'm like, hey, look, I'm a fragile man. My masculinity is on a thread here. So just DM me so I'm not emasculated in public.
They despise Israel, and they will fight. And hold on, this is the most important point. They are going to fight Israel forever, not because they hate the Jews. Oh my God, they're Nazis. Oh, for no reason at all. They were just walking by, and all these Jews came by, and they hate them. No, they took their land, and they still have it. They have them.
Wow, DSP. Wow.
Under their thumb, they can cut off the water, the power, the food, and they have, and they're starving them to death. And you think that, what, they just coincidentally hate the Jews, and that's their driving ideology? No, they're fighting you because you're occupying them. This is the most obvious thing in the world. Why did the Armenians fight the Turks? Why did the Greeks fight the Turks? Why did everyone fight the Turks at the end of World War I and the end of the Ottoman Empire?
Gilles, I got you. Gilmo's gonna come in here with like, hey, bro, chill out. You're weird. You're being weird right now.
Not because they hate the Turks, but because we were occupying them. And if the Greeks said we want to kill them all, which they did, that did not give us a right to go back into Greece, occupy Greece for 75 years and go, how dare you defend yourself? You hate Turks. We get to kill you forever.
All right, we'll pick up on that because this is a legitimate...
Moderator's like, okay. Calm the fuck down. All right. Anyways, you guys want to respond to that? But, cringe aside, killed it. He killed it. He's right. He's fucking right.
Question that I think, Batya, since he named you, you can go ahead and ask. What does legitimate Palestinian self-defense, if there is such a thing, even in your eyes, look like?
Right, well, so that's what I would ask Cenk. Is everything that happened on October 7th legitimate resistance because the Palestinians are occupied?
Great question. So I condemn Hamas for killing civilians. I also condemn the IDF for killing civilians. And now the IDF has killed 30 times the number of civilians that Hamas did. And I know you guys are going to dispute the numbers because that's a very classic thing that people on the oppressor side do.
How many Hamas soldiers do you think have been killed? I just want a number. How many Hamas soldiers?
So, first of all, in terms of the numbers, I go with...
It doesn't matter. That's why I couldn't really survive these kind of debates, because it's like, I don't care. No, it doesn't matter. Because they're still oppressors. So they're still being oppressed. So if you want me to make a distinction between non-fighters and fighters who are being oppressed fighters, I do not make a distinction. I don't care if it's 8,000 Hamas or 10,000 Hamas. I don't give a fuck. Because they want me to then subtract that number from the civilian, the civilian non-fighter count. But I still think that the fighter count are people who are being oppressed. You know what I mean? Because bet money that most of the elite, the people who have the fucking money, the people who are pulling strings, and yes, probably, almost certainly on the Hamas side too, are not the ones fucking dying, because that just doesn't happen like that. You know what I mean? Like, you have people chilling out wherever the fucking they chill out, and they push money and they send orders, and by and large they're safe, right? That's why they promote every time a general dies, they get out there and they say shit. But best believe, and I saw this in a news in an article the other day. The one of them was called a commander, right? So I'm an American, I'm a vet, and when I think commanders, I'm thinking, oh wow, that's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, man, they had commanders out there just like that. This dude was like 25 years old. Okay, this dude was a young adult in the mid-20s. Calling him a commander is on purpose. It's because they don't want you to think about their age. They don't want you to think about the fact that the life expectancy of Palestinian men, Palestinians in general, and the fact that what did they say? I forget the exact numbers, but half the population is under 18. Like what? What? The people who are pulling the strings are not the ones dying. It's the people you are oppressing. That's who's dying. And I don't give a fuck the difference between Hamas dead and civilian dead. Isn't the Prager University guy? Yeah, he is. He has a pretty impressive record for getting the facts right. Yeah. Which I think is going to be, that's why I like, we're watching this because we know Cenk is going to entertain, right? But I'm more interested in when what's his name? Benny Morris. Benny Morris. I like ones like that, even though he's wrong, and even though he's a Zionist. He's coming at it from, I'm a professor, and here's what I think of the facts, and he's wrong at it, right? And then other professors can come in. It's like, well, no, here's how you're interpreting this information wrong, and blah blah blah, right? People, like, even on both sides, right? I mean, like here, when I say both sides, I don't mean of the conflict. I'm talking about both sides of the stage here. People like this is not real. Prager, Brandon Tucker, all you know.
What is internationally?
I don't even think even Prager is gonna be caught so as unprepared as that boy was. He's a god in his own right.
Recognized by news organizations and human rights groups.
How many Hamas soldiers have been killed?
So those groups say, no question, that the health ministry, if anything, has been conservative. Well over 33,000 dead overall. They do not know how many of those are Hamas. Israel's at one point made up a number. Like, hold on, let me just finish. Let me just finish. I'm almost done. At one point, the IDF made up a number, 13,000. And then a couple of weeks later, they changed it to 9,000. So it was obvious that it was made up. Do I trust the 9,000 number? No, because the IDF, everything they have said so far has been disproven by news organizations and human rights organizations. So I don't.
How would you know? Like, how would you know, and why would you trust their, okay, everything I set aside, right? Everything I set aside with regard to, like, if a fighter is fighting for his freedom and he's fighting against his oppressors, why should I not care about that death, right? Like, why should I not care about it? Why should that death be subtracted from the 33,000? Okay, whatever. But let's just say, just for the sake of argument, that we are going to subtract it. The ground invasion didn't start until January, right? I forget exactly when. January, February. If you are bombing everything from artillery, drones, and fighter jets and bombers, then why would I believe that you had any sense of the number? if you're targeting people using AI, if you're targeting locations using AI, why should I believe any of the numbers that you put out, right? As if you're not just going to outright lie anyway. But, again, given a fucking little tiny piece of charity, okay, you're actually giving the numbers. You use AI for targeteering. Why would I fucking believe any of your numbers? Not to mention that you guys are fucking liars.
I don't know what the number of Hamas it killed is, but it is a tiny number, and based on the numbers, even if you took the IDF numbers, the 9,000, already the civilian to military ratio is significantly worse for the IDF than it was for Hamas. So if Hamas are dirty terrorists who went and killed those poor civilians along with the soldiers that they killed, well, then the IDF is also...
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's actually a fucking really good point. Hold on a second, right? What are we at? 11,000? Let's see, hold on. How many Israelis died October 7th, right? So let's do this real quick. 1,160. 11,160. All right. Which is a lot, and it is not okay. However, we gotta search another one here. How many IDF were killed October 7th? 240 were taken. Nope, sorry. Let's see here. Military probe reports. 240 taken hostages. I don't see a number in here. Okay, that doesn't say anything there. Final death toll from the attack is now 695 Israeli civilians, as well as 373 security forces and military. Damn. So now, if this is the rebuttal, if we're not supposed to care about 33,000 because X amount of them were Hamas fighters, then I never want to hear 1,100 people ever again. I never want to hear 1,100 people ever again. I only want to hear 695. You're not allowed to say 1,180 anymore. You have to say 695 because the rest didn't count. I'm just by using their logic.
Obviously terrorists.
Cenk, do you accept Hamas's number that 6,000 of its would you accept Hamas's number that 6,000 of its soldiers have been killed?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so you believe Hamas
because they're
no
going
to.
No. I don't believe Hamas. I'm saying that at a minimum.
Okay.
Because Hamas could be underestimating, but they're not going to overestimate.
Okay, fine. So, I mean, I sort of object morally to taking Hamas at its word and then assuming that the idea.
I object morally at taking Israel at its word. It's been a far worse oppressor.
Let's get to an average. How about 8,000? Whatever it is.
No. How about that? How about go fuck yourself? How about Israel's been caught lying fucking numerous amount of times, and they are the ones in power? So, no.
Past the number.
What is the civilian to combatant ratio that you would have accepted?
What number can I use math to minimize the deaths of a civilian? How can I make you say a number that human brains are going to go, oh, well, that's not a lot, right? Like, if I said, hey, only 3% are dead, right? You know how we saw this? We saw this with COVID, right? Do you know how many? This is the percent of the country that died, and it was like less than 1% or some shit, right, or whatever. And then it was like, oh, time out. Wait a minute. Good night, Rough Rider. Oh shit, 4 a.m. Yeah, get your ass to sleep. That's wild. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Look, what percentage is of the United States? Oh shit, that percentage actually turns out to be over 1 million people. Damn, that's wild. So what she wants is a civilian. And I've actually heard this. Like, I've actually gotten into this argument online. Like, actually, because this is how you know. This is how you know there's these talking points that are kind of rotated around in their echo chamber, right? And because you start hearing these things, when has anybody ever talked about the ratio? Where does that come from? Like since when do we start talking about civilian casualties where we start going like, actually it's not that bad because we're at a 1 to 3 right now. Like who the fuck talks like that? Nobody, right? So this is something that in the information war, right? This is what happens out there. You start injecting shit, right? This is what the CIA does. This is what every nation who's ever partaken in war, they inject information and they have these talking points and they push them out there. When you start talking about atrocities and you start hearing them do this shit, just know that what they're doing is they're understanding the power of numbers and the fact that our brains are not really fucking good with them. That's the truth. Because if I go into a war, and in that war, I drop 2 bombs, and 1 bomb missed the guy and killed 3 people, and the another bomb killed the guy I was going after and killed the 1 guy, and he was a fighter, and I ended the war. I ended it right there. All I did was that 1 strike, and that's what we did, right? Kind of like, the way fucking, what we do sometimes, to Iran or whatever the fuck, Iran, what they just did in Israel, they just did, like, I just want to prove something. I'm going to show a force. So they go and they do that. Guess what? I just have a 75% casualty rate. I have a 75% casualty rate. Man, isn't that fucking horrible? It is, right? I mean, civilians died. And then you go and fucking slaughter tens of thousands of people. And thousands of them were fighters. And you get to go, I have a 20% casualty rate. That's wild. You have a 75% casualty rate, civilian casualty rate, and I have a 20% civilian casualty rate, and you want to judge me? That's because they don't want you to know, oh, well, mine only killed 3 people. Yours killed fucking, 11,000 people. Yours killed 20,000 people. Because when we start playing shit like that, where we got like, no, we're going to talk fractions. We're going to talk ratio. We're going to talk 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4. And you were 2 out of 7 and blah, blah, blah. Our brains are not good at that shit. But they can go, oh, you killed 20% of your kills were civilians and 90% of your kills were civilians? Well, the 90% guy. Yeah. The 90% guy's worse. No, stupid. The 90% guy killed 6 people. You know what I mean? And 4 of them were the family, and that was the end of the war. Obviously, the guy killing tens of thousands of people is worse, but they don't want you to think on like that. It's all fucking propaganda. It's all fucking InfoWars. Ill plus ratio. They want these numbers so they can say, well, these stats say I'm right. Exactly, because most people don't know how to interpret stats, so they rely on that.
In this war, is it 0? Like, what is the civilian to combatant ratio that you would have accepted as moral and just?
So when you look at the scope of conflicts across the world, not in the past, but in this day and age, after World War II and the law of war crimes were put into place, there are, generally speaking, some ratios that people find awful but acceptable. It's usually well under 2 to 1. So, for example, America would not drop 2,000-pound bombs. They wouldn't even drop 500-pound bombs in Fallujah when they were cornered. Israel's wantonly dropping 2,000 bombs.
That's not true. That's not true. Predominantly, we used Hellfires in Fallujah for sure, but I know plenty of people who dropped a shit ton of 500-pound bombs in there. And we use 500-pound bombs in Fallujah for sure.
All over the place, and that is why they have a worse civilian to military kill ratio than Hamas. So do you acknowledge, okay, let me ask you back.
You notice she keeps like, what ratio would we accept? What ratio would we accept? Why? Why are you stuck on ratio? How about numbers? How about whole numbers?
Do you acknowledge that Israel's worse terrorists than Hamas because they're killing more civilians, both as a raw number and as a ratio?
No, Cenk, because
let's get to what the point that he's trying to make is what does legitimate defense on the Israeli parts look like? And this is actually something I'd like to hear from Dennis as well.
The Palestinian part.
Well, we'll get to both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cenk
Okay,
asked him
sure.
about the Israeli part,
well,
so we're talking about IDF.
I don't believe that you don't distinguish between
Look at Dennis Prager. He's such a fucking arrogant piece of shit. Like, you know what he's doing here? He's doing like these people. I don't even know why I'm here. Like everything everybody else is saying is so stupid.
intentionally.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, what idiots.
Intentionally targeting women with rape, babies, children, families intentionally being dismembered. I don't believe that you think that is morally equivalent to an army that is targeting combatants.
That's hilarious.
You think those are the same morally?
No. Don't put words in my mouth. Let me just address that. No, I have to address that.
I'm saying I don't believe that you think those are the same.
No. First of all, we're talking about two different things here. So when you say, hey, do you condemn and do you find it morally acceptable that they killed the children and the raped, etc.? Of course not. That is totally morally unacceptable. But if you say, hey, Israel does not target civilians, that is, I'm sorry, but I think it's a comical point of view. And so they definitely do. And by the way, this is really important, though. When Hamas kills a baby, we all condemn it. Israel has now killed 15,000 children. And you know what they did? They crushed their skulls, they lit them on fire, and they burned them to death. And you know how they did that? With 2,000-pound bombs.
I do want to answer that.
Wait, hold on, Gizmodo. I didn't know. I mean, I knew you were a vet, but I gotta hit you up on DMs. Were you a JTAC or were you Anglico? What did you do that you were doing all this?
And they did it on purpose.
Wrap this up, and then I want to get to Dennis as well and Dave because they've both
Not doubting you. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know.
both haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Resistance that targets, if Hamas had only targeted military, we would be having a totally different conversation.
Just in case it's hard to see the chat on the screen, Blur said what's up from the Twitch side.
Agreed.
Okay? I think we would agree on that.
Yeah.
Resistance that happens in the West Bank that is nonviolent, I have a
Okay, you were a fister. Oh, in the army. So you were in the army, you were a fister. Okay, that's what's up.
very dear friend who's the head of a nonviolent resistance movement in the West Bank. His life is impossible because of the double standard, the double legal standard between Palestinians and Israelis, which is unconscionable. Of course, that is totally. I know you don't know anything about me.
No, I just said I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Take the compliment.
The resistance that happens in the West Bank that is nonviolent. I have a very dear friend who's the head of a nonviolent resistance movement in the West Bank. His life is impossible because of the double standard, the double legal standard between Palestinians and Israelis, which is unconscionable.
I want to hear what Dennis Prager has to say about that. But by the way, that's very typical. Before anybody gives her like too much props, this is something I've learned. You know, CG has been you know, CG had me ready for this kind of you know, Zionist for a while now, and it's just something I see over and over again. So she's what you would call, it's the same thing with Benny Morris. She's what you would call a progressive Zionist, right? A liberal Zionist, and basically it's just like the American liberals, where you're like, oh yeah, like, hey, we should all just hug each other, and we should all, like, racism is bad, guys, and you don't actually want to do anything to address the core of why things are like this, right? And so Zionist liberals are kind of the same, where they're like, oh my God, like, oh, settlements are bad, settlements aren't good, and we should not be treating Gaza like that. Oh, okay, so you're saying they should have right of return? Well, no, because, you know, then they would just, you know, we wouldn't be the majority here, and if we let them have right of return, then we would be outnumbered in our own government, right? So the liberal Zionist is, which it sounds like she is, you know, will sit there and say what's happening in the West Bank is bad, what's happening in Gaza is bad, but again, like American liberals, will not want to address the cause of these things, right? Especially if it means giving up their power.
Of course, that is totally. I know you don't know anything about me.
No, I just said I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Take the compliment.
That is totally legitimate resistance. Military targets, nonviolent resistance, BDS. I don't like it. I find it offensive. I find it a double standard, whatever. I support the right of people to resist through boycotts. That's like a time-honored American tradition. These are all legitimate forms. Using rape as a tool of war, not legitimate. And we all agree on that, by the way. So I don't think we disagree about this. It's just when you say that the occupation...
Well, it sounds like you agree, but you're willing to parrot propaganda bullshit like Hamas used rape as a tool of war. Rape happened. I'm sure of it because the people who I'm just pretty sure. But at the level that they did, and then some of the atrocities that are just comical as hell. There was one thing I read. They cut off the breast and they started throwing it around like a football, playing with it. Wow! By the way, the I'm sorry if that's too visceral. Sorry. But supposedly the sexual assault, is going on while this is happening during that, and it's like, do you understand the consistency of fat? Do you understand that's not the way that would happen? Like, that's not what would happen to a boob that you cut off. They're not bags of sand, contrary to popular belief. And yeah, I doubt Prager supports the boycotts unless it's Target. Yeah. Those little all right, we're gonna take a break right here in the debate because the stream's over. First of all, the most important thing that we can do here is just acknowledge that your boy's the Ground News affiliate. Check .ground.news/leftface. Check it out. Just check it out. See if you like what's going on there, and if you want to support, then go ahead and get yourself a subscription for 15% off using that code, that link, check.ground.news/leftface, and get yourself 15% off. And like I said, it's something that I decided to get on top of because it matched, right? It matched with my own, moral framework. CG, if you're out there, CG will be the one to be like, actually, did you know? I'm like, God damn it. Like, don't tell me. If they're not good, don't tell me. I don't want to hear shit. No, I'm just playing. We acknowledge you are tribal chief. Hey, if you want to support, go check out that link. Remember, it is Nerds of Culture Eve. Tomorrow, it is just Blur Without Fear and myself. Keep an eye on the Discords, either over in Blurred Koa or Leftface, and we will be doing our business tomorrow. Friday, look, I've said this before, so I'm just gonna stop saying it. It is possible that between now and Friday, I lose all the fucks I have about this debate. And right now, I want to watch the rest of the debate. So right now, I'm going to be like, on Friday, we're going to see how the rest of this debate goes, yada, yada, yada. But come Friday, I'm like, I don't want to watch that shit anymore. So look, if you guys want me to finish that debate, let me know in the Discord. Otherwise, you just leave it up to chance, and we'll see what happens. Swing by the YouTube channel Blur Without Fear tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific for some Nerds of Culture. And then and if I miss you there, I'll see you right back here on Friday at 7:30 to 8, somewhere around there, p.m. Eastern. I love you all. Take care. And, take care of yourself and take care of others. Peace.